Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another Brony Debates Live. I hope you're all doing well out there. Let's get a good start to the weekend. Now then, this week, we're taking a request from Twitter, from Mr. Dark Cover, I'm assuming Mr. anyway, who says, what is the most important aspect of a series? So, I didn't get a chance to get him on the show to ask him exactly what he meant by that, so hopefully we can give him a good show. Hopefully he's listening out there, and hopefully we don't totally butcher his concept. Anyway, so there's obviously a lot that goes into making any kind of entertainment. That might be something we would need to define here in a second, is what kind of entertainment we're dealing with exactly. And yeah, what is the most important aspect of it? So for this one, we brought on DJ. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am here. I'm ready to talk.
All right, we got Cordero. How are you doing today?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Heather, how are you doing today?
Just well enough.
Just well enough. Alrighty then.
Living.
So, yeah, I'll have to improve that. I'll have to improve those that situation somehow. Anyway, if you'd like to get on the show, I'd love to have you on. Let's just get you on the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. I'm very grateful to all of my generous supporters on Patreon, especially those on the $10 and up tier. A good chunk of which are joining us tonight. DJ, Cordero, and Heather. Look at that! Everybody on the panel tonight is also on that tier. I promise that's not on purpose.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. We also got Shady Oak Ministries, Sid McConroy, Autoknight, Emerald Spencer, Sodden, Girder, Senko, Kyle Christensen, Rein-Kun, Morningstar, QFlash, Billy Henline, Alden, MacManx, EasyModeGamer, Sophia, and Dark Malcontent, author of the Metaverse series. Please check out all their links in the description. They make some pretty good content as well. Cordero's got a really good fan fiction releasing in parts now about Celestia on trial. You want to give us a quick blurb on that, Cordero?
Yes, so I went ahead and stopped the regular fanfiction I was writing because I had this idea for Celestia being on trial 500 years before Twilight. And I wrote the whole thing out. It's in 3 parts. I'm releasing it one at a time. So next Monday, part 2. On Monday, part 2 will come out. It's on the featured page on filmfiction.com. I've never been on the featured page, so I'm pretty hype. It's already like my most viewed fic, basically. Faster than anything else. And yeah, it's about Celestia, a group of revolutionaries trying to depose Celestia and start a pony republic, and whether or not they're successful.
Interesting. Alrighty then. So, let's talk about the topic at hand here. So, I admit I worded it a little funny in the thumbnail there. So pay as little attention to the thumbnail as possible. But let's go around here and just talk about what we think is the most important aspect of a series, and we'll try to keep it vague, because I imagine there's something a little bit different about books as to video games, as to television, as to movies, things of that nature. So I'm going to say that the story is the most important aspect of any kind of series. Heather, what do you think?
I'm gonna be a shallow hoe and say visuals are very important.
Alrighty then. Already we have a bit of a problem there potentially, but let's go down the line here. Cordero, what do you think?
Marketing. Nothing matters but marketing and that sweet ROI.
Alrighty then. What's ROI? Define that for me real quick.
Return on investment. That's all that matters is what are you getting out of this creation? How much is it returning for you? Nothing matters more than that.
Alrighty then. And DJ, what do you think?
I believe characters are the greatest part to any series.
All right. So, let me bring it back to me here, and here's why I think what I think is that everything hinges on that story. The characters, like DJ say, fall under the umbrella of the story. The visuals, like Heather says, can fall under the umbrella of the story. They don't always, but they often do, and they certainly can, depending on how much effort you're putting into it and how much how much storytelling you intend to do with the visuals. And like Cordero said with marketing, no amount of marketing, as we're seeing right now with Amazon's Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of Power, no amount of marketing is going to save you from a bad story. Because you might get a lot of people in the door, but keeping them there, I would argue, is even more important. So that's my opening statement. Heather, what do you think?
I can understand why you'd say that, but I would always say a simple story is good enough if everything else is pretty great. And I'm going to say visuals are very important, because how often have you come across a series and you just take one look at the promotional art and you're like, oh, this looks like everything else, or oh, this looks terrible. Like, what is this art style? I hate it.
You don't have to call out MOP Gen 5 like that so quickly.
I thought we were calling out T-Raw.
That happens a lot. You remember Thundercats Roar? Everyone was pissed when they saw that. Sonic the movie, as soon as they saw Sonic for the first time, everyone bullied the freaking production company until they fixed it, and it was all the better for it. And that story, characters is okay, the story was well enough, but it looked cool enough and did enough funny things. A lot of it was about appearance, and it came out pretty dang good. Visuals are very important, because I can tell you, I have a few shows that I like that don't look good, but it's because it had to have everything else going for it. One of my favorite older shows is G.I. Joe Renegades, and it only went for a season. You want to guess why? Because the characters were there, the story was there. What wasn't there was the visual aspect. The designs, I'm going to be honest, the animation style just did not look good. It was that kind of art style where everyone kind of has a huge nose, like a weird potato nose.
It was
Bryan knows what I'm talking about.
It was G.I. Joe but with flash animation. And all of the limitations that implies. It came out at the same time as I think season 1 or season 2 of Friendship is Magic. So with all the same sort of animation limitations we saw in season 1 and season 2, you could translate that to G.I. Joe in a human form.
Yeah, exactly. So, and like I'm saying, everything else was there for that show. It had a great story. It had great characters. I'm not so sure where the marketing was on that one, because I didn't hear about it until years after it came out, and I found it on Netflix. But yeah, it just did not have a good art style going for it. And if you look back at all the fandom rage people have had in the past, it's usually because they got the first look at something and they hated the way it looked. Looks are very important. You can say don't judge a book by its cover, but the cover is supposed to give you a clue of the contents of the book, bro.
Alrighty then. Cordero, do you want to defend your position?
I would agree that visuals are very, very important. Visuals is just a subset of what I'm talking about. It's all about the marketing, because people have this idea that art is some sort of sacred thing that's created out of passion by creators that just want to bare their soul to the world. That is a myth and 100% false. Every single great piece of art that you have ever heard of was well marketed, well presented to the target demographic, and put out there in a way that had a good return. Beethoven was playing to the popular audience. Beethoven wrote pop music. I don't know how to break this to you, but in the 1820s, everything Beethoven came out would have qualified as pop music today. It was very popular. It drew large crowds. People would show up to see his piano sonatas, and it was the talk of the town. It was popular, and it was commissioned. All of that Renaissance art that people lose their minds over and art classes worship, all of that was commissioned. Those artists didn't want to draw Jesus 80 times because they were passionate about Jesus. They were paid to draw Jesus on the cross over and over and over, and the Virgin Mary, and all of those amazing pieces of art were commissioned for money and presented to the public and marketed in a way that there was a big return on investment. That is what art is. Art is a business. Art is money. So if you don't find a way to market it and get it out there to your audience, you have failed as a storyteller and as an artist. And I would argue, you brought up the Lord of the Rings thing, where oh, they went for marketing. That was a failure of marketing. that is failing right now, and it's going to fail because they didn't understand their demographics and they didn't understand the product that they were putting out, and they fumbled the marketing. It actually proves my point.
Alrighty then. And sorry, that okay, alrighty then. And DJ, what about your position?
Well, with me, characters are always the most dominant to me, and why I would say they're the most important part of a story is that if you have great characters, it usually doesn't matter what the story is. The story could be simple, it could even be terrible, but if the characters are good, they can be the most memorable. They can be the greatest part of a story, even if it doesn't look good, even if it's not marketed well. I mean, that's how you get stuff like cult classics.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think I'll leave it that vague for now.
Okay. Yeah. So, go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I was like, there's a lot you could build off of that, because, like, before this, I was, like, veering toward, like, oh, I want to talk about how characters are good, but, like, DJ already took that because he sees the future and he wanted to steal it from me, so I went into visuals because I like those, like, next, but, like, with characters, that's where I say, like, the story can kind of take a back seat. It can be the simplest thing in the world, like, we have tropes, we have things that occur in anime all the time, like beach episodes, tournaments, things, and shonen. And, like, we'll watch that stuff a million times over because new characters are introduced and adjusting to that situation, and that's what you want to see.
So here's my question for DJ. How is it that characters don't fall under the umbrella of story in general?
Because a character can exist outside of a story. A
Is
character can just be a simple character sheet like in D&D. That's all it can be.
Well,
but
you might get the start of a character like that, but I wouldn't exactly call that fleshed out. You need the story for that.
Well, that's just it. It depends. Characters don't always have to be quote unquote fleshed out to be great characters. They can just be simple and fun. I mean, for a lot of people, you could just take Pinkie Pie out of Friendship is Magic and throw her into any situation and it'd be hilarious.
Well, without fleshing out the characters and giving them an actual story, then I don't think there can be a character. That the most you can get out of that is a caricature. So you get the tropes, you get the bare bones of what looks to be a person. You might vaguely remind yourself of somebody that you know, but characters are, I mean, they're humans. They're intricate, complicated beings. So yeah, you definitely need to have the story and at least some levels of ups and downs. And yeah, you can put Pinkie Pie, for example, in any sort of situation, but Pinkie will have a range of emotions that she uses to respond to a range of different stimuli.
Yeah, and that's part of her character.
You can flesh out a character in a bad story. Fine. Like, I would also prioritize characters above story, because if you have good characters that people connect with, people will watch those characters read the phone book.
Exactly.
I really do think that story is secondary to characters, because your great, amazing, well-told, well-thought-out story will fail if people do not like and do not connect with the characters, because it doesn't matter how great the challenge is or how interesting the conflict is or the politics. If there's nobody in the story for people to like and connect with, they just won't care. You won't have any audience investment without characters, and that's why I rank it as more important than the story and still less important than marketing.
Interesting.
And I can even make a good example.
Okay, go ahead.
Recently, on my streams, I've finished the first Uncharted game.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know, it's like an Indiana Jones, but the main character, Nathan Drake, he's smarmy, he's sarcastic, he's intelligent in ways you wouldn't expect of him because he does not look like an intellectual, but the dude knows almost every written language in history and major historic events that are like the vaguest trivia you'd find in like a family Italian restaurant. But the story, pretty mediocre. It just goes from point A to point B with barely anything all that interesting. But what kept me going was Nathan Drake being who he is. He's just fascinating to watch and funny to listen to. especially when his old friend Sully is there working off of him because he's like a very old, gruff version of Nate that is very bad with money.
Mm.
And to me, that just speaks volumes of their character, even though the story they're in is not really that good.
Okay. I'll take that for now. I got some questions, but they'll be better suited to like the next section of the show that I want to get into there. Which help me keep a pin in this. How much does the medium of the series matter and the format? But we'll get to that later. Cordero, the question that I had for you is, you say that marketing is the most important thing and that everything revolves around the return of investment, but we've seen plenty of examples of grassroots sort of series that just sprung up out of nowhere and became super popular on their own merit with little to no marketing, and then continued to have thriving fan bases of their own. So how is marketing the most important aspect when usually the most heartfelt things and turn out the best quality series?
Those are the great. That's called like a viral. That would be like a viral or a grassroots thing, and really that's just a marketing tactic, and it can be done accidentally, but those like organic, things that where everyone's like, oh, this is just a small creator, and then it blows up. Well, then all you have to do is just monetize it. When somebody gets the ball rolling like that, you just monetize it. And a lot of those grassroots or quote viral things are done intentionally to look grassroots and viral because that's something that people like, and anything that people like can be exploited via marketing. So
I've never heard of that. I've heard of people trying to make it grassroots, but usually when that happens, it becomes so patently obvious that it's a fake grassroots, and then they get ridiculed for that. Do you have
sometimes it's fake. People fall for it all the time. And it's like, oh, look at this thing that came out of nowhere that a bunch of these influencers are pushing at the same time.
Yeah,
and people fall for it.
Referring to Among Us.
People fall for it. People are like, oh yeah, Among Us. That's a great example where people just like, oh, this thing that everybody likes at the same time. It seems like it's organic and everybody just discovered something. No, it was planned. It was planned. Like somebody had something and they're like, we're gonna push this, but we're gonna make it look like you wanted this. Like this is just something that popped out of the sky. That just entered your sphere and it just happens to be exactly what you want. No, it's targeted demographic marketing via independent influencers. That's a very popular method right now because a lot of people they sniff a corporate product and they don't like it and they move away from it. So marketers are just adapting to that. We're also seeing it fail a lot, but that's just the market correcting itself as people figure out what does and does not work.
I don't really think that counts as marketing. That's literally is what happened with Among Us.
Mm-hmm. Now, Among Us saw its biggest popularity early and mid through mid and late
2020.
2020. It had already existed for almost 3 years at that point, and then it just got that spike in popularity. So how does what you're saying apply to Among Us as a
Okay. Do you think that the creators of Among Us have made their buck?
Yeah, but I don't think they wanted to wait 3 years to see that return on investment.
Before the fact, after the fact, we planned it all along, or we took it and ran with it. Either way, the mark of success is the marketing and the return on investment. If you get popular out of nowhere when you have nothing, you're going, or at least if you don't, somebody is going to profit on that. It's a two-way street. Success is marketed, and marketing will lead to success. It's a two-way street. They go hand in hand. So if somebody brings something up from nothing, it's going to get marketed. And the reason, so that's why I put marketed as number one, because one way or another, whether you put the cart before the horse or not, somebody is going to make their buck off of it, and it's really the only empirical metric we have for success.
Okay, so the next question I would have to that is, there was a web series that Heather turned me on to many years ago called No Evil, and it was it's a very interesting animated series, but not a whole lot of people were watching it, and probably less so now. But that doesn't have a whole lot of marketing to it or anything like that. Now, is that not successful or not a good series? We'll just take my word for it if you haven't seen it, and so if you haven't seen it, just take my word for now that it's a good series. That the story is very good and the characters are really interesting. Is that not successful? Sorry, just from existing as a good story and as a series without that marketing, without that popularity.
Yeah, I would hesitate to call it a success. I mean, I suppose if a creator just wanted to make something that they like and think is good, and they like it and thinks it's good, and a small community of people think that, I can understand people calling that a success. But I ultimately think that the metric of success is, did you get a return on it? Did you make something out of it monetarily? I am that shallow and that utilitarian.
So what about, let's say, the original Fallout Equestria by K-Cat, who has probably made a few bucks on it later on in like hardcover publishing and things like that, but I don't think she put out a whole lot of marketing out there. It just happened to hit that niche. Now, later on down the line, as Fallout Equestria themed things got their own subsection of the fandom and their own fandom almost independently, they certainly tried to market themselves and their side stories as Fallout Equestria. Right.
They succeeded.
So, how does that model still play into what you're trying to say? If K-Cat put in no effort on her own.
Well, Brony influencers, content creators. That's it. Pony content creators hopped on that, and that became a huge thing within the fandom. So either she or some group of people, or some eclectic group of people, did end up making money off Fallout Equestria, because every Brony knows what Fallout Equestria is. That was like a huge thing in the fandom. So somebody made some kind of return on it, and and that's one of those grassroots things that I'm talking about. It hit a niche in the fandom and spread to like everyone who'd had a cursory knowledge of My Little Pony had probably heard of Fallout Equestria. And that's a result of somebody, even if it wasn't her, hopped on that marketing train and got the word out.
I think you and I have a different definition of marketing, because I think
that's where I'm at too. I think there's a disconnect here, because from my point of view, word of mouth is not marketing. Marketing is intentional.
Well, who started the word of mouth? Whose mouths are they coming out of, and what kind of audience do they have?
That is definitely...
If it's coming from the audience, I don't count that as marketing.
Yeah, that's definitely the question, though, is where did it start and where did it come from? And I certainly... Yeah. I'm with DJ. I don't believe that grassroots and marketing are the same thing, because now marketing agencies, like I said, they will certainly try to simulate grassroots, but you can always tell. You can always tell when it's grassroots. Heather, I haven't heard.
This is where it gets nebulous, because if a guy with 100,000 subscribers says, "Hey, this show is good, you can check it out. Also check my merch or the thing that I did involving this series," that's marketing. This is what I mean. Like, if it's a person whose audience is the 5 people around them, you can call that pure grassroots. But if somebody has any audience whatsoever and they are deliberately drawing attention to something, that's now marketing. And that's the thing, is marketing became desegregated, because everybody has this idea that marketing is like these big corporate firms. Marketing is pretty desegregated now, and that's why I define it as anybody who has an audience and is pushing something out there is doing marketing. And then if you have one guy has 20k subs, one guy has 100k, one guy has 5k, one guy has 40k, and all of these people in a community are pushing the same thing, that is a marketing campaign, a decentralized marketing campaign.
Interesting.
And it's like, is there a mastermind or not? Like, people think, well, if it's marketing, somebody has to be the mastermind, right? Well, do they? Like, this definition is changing, and we're just growing with the organic changing concept of marketing, where it doesn't have to be Disney presents this. It's like, well, there's this big thing in the fandom. How did it become big in the fandom? All of the big content creators pushed it. So is that not marketing? I think it is.
And I would disagree. I think we'd be at an impasse there.
Yeah, I'm kind of at that stage too.
Heather, do you have any thoughts? I haven't heard from you in a little bit.
Not particularly. I have to agree with brain dead for a minute. Cordero on the marketing aspect of things. It is desegregated because, especially if you're looking at it in a very vague sort of sense, like as someone who has a business degree, marketing is just, well, you don't call it that, but it's just advertisement. And advertisements are things that are just incredibly simple to do. Making a tweet is an advertisement if it's about what you're trying to market.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, I've made several advertisements within the week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Interesting. So Heather, how about so the question I had for you, Heather, is if visuals are so important, what happens when it gets translated to something that's less visual, like a radio play or a book?
Now, the thing with books is they come in covers and there's cover art. So do simple things with that and just have text, like say it's just a book called, I have a book here. I have books. H.P. Lovecraft's The Complete Cthulhu Mythos Tales. Now, that on its own could probably sell, because that's a very recognizable name. But this book that I have is one of those Barnes & Noble ones that are just, like, overly decked out and fancy, like, with the freaking gold trim pages. And that stuff's just meant to be on your shelf and stay there, probably not even particularly for you to read, if you just want it for looks and to look educated. But the thing is, the look of this book is what's going to sell it to people. It shows freaking Cthulhu on the cover, tentacles just in knots looking at you. It's way more effective at grabbing someone's attention and getting them to get the book, read the book, and really observe the contents if it had just been like just some blank text on there. So the visuals can work in that way, as in they grab your attention. Now, for a radio play, I have to ask, where's the radio play being hosted? Is it just like on the regular radio? What are we in the 50s? No, like it's going to be like on a podcast. It's going to be on YouTube. And for that, you'd still have cover art. You could, like, again, like I said, you could have like the plain text that just says the title and what it is, but that doesn't get people in. If you think about it, what Cordero said earlier was right. Visuals are part of marketing. It gets you in, and it gives you like a bit of visual representation. Because a lot of people, like, if they go into a Barnes & Noble and they look at like manga, they're gonna look at the cover first and maybe read the thing in the back. But if the cover art initially doesn't capture them, they'll reconsider picking up that manga, because manga is, you know, like comic books and all those other things. What you see at the top and the front of that book is going to be a good representation of what you're going to get if you go on reading the rest of that book, or, you know, seeing the other visuals in that manga. It's just a good preview at what is to come. It can begin to start like giving you the atmosphere and setting that book is going to try and transport you to. It's just a multifaceted thing. It covers a whole bunch of different parts of the experience, like the characters that you might see on the cover, the weather, the tone. It can set a lot of stuff for the beginning of the book and what you might be getting yourself into.
Interesting. So how do the visual aspects of it separate themselves from the strictly marketing aspect, like Cordero had posted? Because if there's so much overlap, then how do you separate them?
Well, with anything here, there's a lot of overlap of what we're talking about, because, you know, what are you going to do with characters if there isn't a story? What are you going to do with the story if there's not characters that go through it? What are you going to do with visuals if you don't have a character to draw, all that crap? You see what I'm saying? There's going to be overlap. The thing that might separate visuals from marketing is because visuals go past marketing. Like, marketing's there in the beginning to get people into the door, and visuals will help with that. But that's about where marketing ends. Visuals can continue. Like, you're reading a manga, you're going to see that art on every page. You're watching a series, that art style is going to be on every episode you watch. And even with, like, if you said you during the radio shows, the cover art can change every time, like, a new chapter is uploaded. The visuals, like, outside of, like, a book that's purely text, and then, like, a lot of people do a lot of cool things with the books they write, like having chapter art and things like that. The visuals just carry on throughout the work. they're going to still be there and they're going to contribute to the tone. You're just going to be looking at them the entire time. So what separates them from marketing in particular is that they're there for you the entire ride.
Alrighty then. So here's a question I'd like to ask everybody. What is more important? Is it getting the audience in or retaining them? And I'll leave the floor open for that one for whoever wants to take it first.
I would like to say, like, obviously you can say both, but I would like to say it depends on what your goal is. Like, say you are releasing a movie. Maybe your goal is just to get as many people in there as possible, because no matter what, everyone else has to buy that ticket. And you make that big initial profit. If that's all you wanted, then you know what? Just getting them in is that important. Retaining them might be something you want for a show. For a show, you want a good sized audience, but you want them to stay. You don't want them there just for the beginning. You want them to stay with you. Otherwise, you're getting cut off at one season. So it really depends on what it is you made and what is the goal.
Would anybody like to add or take away from that?
Well, since you worded it as which one is more important, I will say getting the audience in is more important, because just because of order of operations, in order to maintain an audience, they have to be there. So logically, the more important aspect is getting them there at all. And then once they're there, you have the challenge of, well, how do I keep them around? How do I keep them interested? So just by necessity, the first one is more important, period. Like the chicken, it's not a chicken and egg scenario. You have to have A before you can even do B. So that doesn't make B unimportant. It's just subservient or secondary to getting the audience in there first.
Interesting. So, what about the cases where, let's say, a show wasn't very popular when it ran for its first two seasons, and then just by persistence, just by being on the airwaves, just by showing up in people's algorithms, by the time they got to season 3, they started getting a slower trickle in of fans that watched all the way from
Cult
season
following.
1. Okay, cult following.
Just say cult following and cut out 4 paragraphs.
Yeah. All right. So what about that?
Well, they got the audience in at some point, didn't they?
No, that's kind of the idea behind it.
Yeah. At some point, the audience showed up. So how did the cult following exist? How did word get out?
Because some idiot was probably bored at home smoking weed.
Yeah. That's still getting the audience, right? It still happens before you can retain.
It's not a push for it.
I love the necessity that DJ put in there of the smoking weed part. Like
Very important.
Yeah, without the weed, we would have never discovered Among Us.
Among Us?
Yeah, or just
we discovered Among Us?
Exactly. That's I have no idea. Right? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But without the
I'm almost certain weed is why The Big Lebowski got popular.
Oh, that is 100% the reason.
No, failure is the reason The Big Lebowski got popular, because everyone who lives in LA, other than 0.01% of the population, everyone in Southern California is actually a giant failure doing a job that they wish they weren't doing when they would rather be in show business. And The Big Lebowski was 2 hours of a failure who wanted to be a big shot just living a normal doofus life. That's why The Big Lebowski is popular. It is a monument to failure, and it's the same kind of failure that everyone in Southern California experiences.
I mean, I'll take your word for it. I was never able to finish it. It was so boring.
Well, there you go. You didn't have the aspirations to be in Hollywood, I guess, as it didn't connect with you.
I don't think
Connected with a
anyone
lot
had
of
the
people, though.
aspiration to be in Hollywood. Hollywood's a horrible place.
Go to Southern California. You'll find that there's no
I went
reason
to
anyone's
Babscom.
there
Does that
otherwise. You probably ran into people. Maybe you just didn't realize how they felt.
Oh,
Everyone in
I
Southern
met Brony
California.
there. So what does that
Everyone
say
in
about
Southern
him?
California wants to be a movie star or a producer or something. That's the reason they're in Southern California.
I can't argue with that. All right, so cult following then. They an audience that comes in later. Does this still apply? Now, Cordero says yes because it still counts as being an audience, but I feel like it's a little bit different when it comes in later. Like you might never even live to see your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. You're not getting that return on your investment. Let me put it that way for you. What do you think about that?
Because they didn't get the initial audience, they don't get their return on investment because it takes so long.
That they don't. Well, let me see. Who was the most popular postmortem? Edgar Allan Poe, and we were just
music composers.
Yeah, we were just talking about
Schubert,
Lovecraft, right? So yeah, so by your definition, Cordero, of the return on investment being the most important thing, then the people that never saw their return on investment were not successful.
Somebody was successful on their behalf after their death or during their life. Somebody took the success.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying it's not the most important thing. Is because it can happen later, and that
it's the most important thing for the guy who took advantage of the success. It's the most important thing for that guy.
I feel like he's stonewalling me. Does anybody else feel like I'm being like?
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. You think H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe, they'd come back from the dead? You're gonna get that Edgar Allan Poe from South Park. It's like, whatever. He's probably pissed he didn't get any success.
Yeah, right.
Half the reason these guys, like, I'm sorry to be insensitive, off themselves and shit is because their freaking work isn't recognized in their time.
Yeah.
They don't get appreciated for what they do. I think they don't feel very successful.
If you took all of those guys that died before their shit got popular and said, hey, look what happened, Devil's Agreement, you can come back and live in that success for 10 years, but afterwards you have to go to a deeper circle of hell. They would all take it. Every single one of them would take it.
Oh yeah, because they're all in hell already anyway.
You like that? You like that? How I tried to slide that by?
See, this is where I'm getting hung up on, is that, yeah, it's good to get the audience in, but that doesn't really say anything about the series as we're going with the original quote here as itself. Because, yeah, sure, you're getting an audience, but that doesn't say anything about the quality of the work.
Quality is certainly an interesting question as well. How much does the objective quality matter?
How much can you convince somebody it's quality?
That's
what are you, Michael Bay?
that's certainly the question. Can success be measured by how trash it is?
It can be measured by your return on investment, for sure. And people can debate about objective quality. Objective quality is debated after the fact. That's in retrospective. Hey, this thing that got popular, did it really deserve to get popular? And then people write think pieces and make YouTube videos and debate on whether it really was that good or what its problems were. Meanwhile, the studio that made it takes their billion, quadrillion, jillion dollars to the bank because they were successful.
All right,
quality is a post facto. Quality is a post mortem.
Okay,
it's not a startup issue.
All right, so let's put that theory on the test. For another recent example here, how about
I'm having a lot of fun, by the way. Is anyone else having fun?
I'm having fun too. I enjoy this kind of thing. Anyway, High Guardian Spice. Okay, High Guardian Spice did not have characters, did not have story, did not have visuals, but it sure as frick had the marketing. And they got the return on their investment. Just by being a part of Crunchyroll and having and so many people watched it one way or another. Cordero, is High Guardian Spice successful? Lie to me, Cordero. Lie to my face and tell me it was successful because it's meeting all of your requirements.
Did they make their numbers back? Did they get an ROI or not?
Paid for it.
Okay,
yep.
So they got cost. Did they get a good ROI after cost?
Enough people watched
what I'm getting at, if the answer to that question is yes, I'm going to say yes.
They got paid in their royalties by Crunchyroll.
They kind of have to because it's a subscription service and that's where all the money's going.
Yeah, but if you have Crunchyroll, you paid for High Guardian Spice.
Okay. Did Crunchyroll bleed subscribers because of High Guardian Spice?
That is the question. That I actually don't know.
I don't think they released numbers.
If they stayed even on subscribers or gained, then High Guardian Spice wins.
Okay, now then we got to ask the question, the question of correlation and causation, right? Let's say so High Guardian Spice releases at the same exact time as a new season of Demon Slayer, and their numbers go up. Did High Guardian Spice cause those numbers to go up?
Oh, because Demon Slayer backpacked them. Well, you have an aggregate place for lots of this kind of content. So it's a little messy here because it's the vehicle is really the culmination of like the entire anime library that they put out. I mean, you could argue that High Guardian Spice is dragging them down, whereas Demon Slayer is backpacking them. And you would base that argument based on audience reactions to those two works.
Interesting.
Not now.
All right. Does anybody else want to add or take away from this?
You know, I had to Google High Guardian Spice. I mean, I heard the name before, but I know absolutely nothing about it. And just looking at it visually wise, it's cute.
I like the artwork. Yeah, I like the
It's
artwork. It looks good. I wish MLP Gen 5 looked that good.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Right.
trying to piss me off, and it's working.
It is horrible.
High Guardian Spice looks good. I like it. I
But
like
it's
the art.
still-
I like the art style. I do not like the new 2D pony art style. I wish they could swap art styles.
They're the same art
Yeah, this
style.
could work.
No,
No, it's not.
it's a similar. They're a similar style, but they are not the same. The 2D ponies, they look flat. They look weird. The proportions are wrong. They're just ugly to
It
look
looks
at.
the same
High
as-
Guardian
Yeah, the
Spice.
Pony Life.
High
It's
Guardian
Pony
Spice
Life.
sprites are good to look at. I know, that's the problem. It's worse than Pony Life. I like the Pony Life caricatures better because they met in the middle. They're like, we kind of want good looking sprites, but we also kind of want joke Pony Life Teen Titans Go sprites, and they've compromised in the middle of that, and it's terrible. It's worst of both worlds.
I think it all looks the same.
It kind of reminds me of that style of that one like kiddie show, Wow Wow Wubsy. You guys remember that shit?
No.
No, I don't
Definitely.
remember that.
Yeah. You go around and be like, wow, my name is Wubsy. It looks like nursery school.
Was that a Nick
fucking
Jr.
kid
thing?
cartoon. That's a Nick Jr. thing, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
looking.
I'm not going to defend the
never heard of that.
G5 one, but I will say at least that's just the YouTube version.
Right. Well, that's what's going to be the show. Like
no,
the 3D.
no, that's the YouTube show. The Netflix show is sticking with the CGI. There's
Is
gonna
it?
be two
Thank God.
shows.
There's 2 shows.
Yeah,
Oh, praise Jesus! I thought
the
that
2D
was the
forms
show.
are YouTube shorts.
Oh, I thought that was the show.
No, the main show is going to be sticking with the CGI.
Okay, all right. I'll put my guns away. I'll put the pitchfork. Okay, if there's gonna be a side goofy YouTube short, fine. I don't give it. I thought that was going to be the show proper.
Oh,
That's
no,
how
no.
angry I was.
It's what's premiering first, I think.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
We have a special in May. The show is the main show on Netflix is premiering in September, and then there's a Christmas special in November.
Gotcha. I'm looking at High Guardian Spice art right now, and I unironically like it. It's cute. The art style.
Cordero, are you looking at it in motion?
No, I'm just looking at stills.
Then that's where the issue is because the
animation's
is
bad?
horrible.
The stills look great. I love the way the characters look. There's a lot of character on their faces. You know, people complain about it is technically Cal Art style or whatever people call that. It is that style, but this is a good rendition in stills. It's a good rendition of that style.
It is not a good show though.
I know.
High Guardian
I've
I
heard-
bet it sucks.
I've seen many reviews of it.
High
and
Guardian
explanations.
Spice is essentially an alternate universe Steven universe fan fiction.
Is it?
Yeah, for how well
Stephanie Universe.
Yeah.
She does kind of look like Stephanie Universe.
for how well written it is, and yeah, it's about the same.
To make it simple, the series premiere, the first 10 minutes is them just getting on and off different modes of transportation with
I heard that.
barely any talking.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
looking at some clips and it doesn't look that bad.
the next question I wanted to ask tonight is how much does the medium play a role into how important these things are? So like with books, visualization might not be as important, for example. Or does it
It's more
change
important.
when it's video games, or does it change when it's television, or does it change when it's movies? What do you guys think about that?
It's more important. The visuals are more important on books because you get one per book. You get the one picture on the cover, and that has to communicate so much. The entire tone, the setting, the characters, everything has to be communicated in exactly one still. It's the importance of that one picture is heightened. The audience can't see it, but I put in chat the cover art for the fan fiction I'm writing, the Celestia on Trial fan fiction. I paid an artist $50 to create this and told him exactly what I wanted because of how important it was to me for that one still express to the audience what they were getting into.
I think I can bring that up 1 second here.
That was something I was going to bring up at some point. That like I used to be a bigger reader on film fiction, and I'll tell you, any fix that didn't have like a picture, I immediately scrolled past because I'm like, if you're not even gonna try and steal someone's fan art to put on here, what am I even here for? I need to have a little sample of what this is. Screw your description.
Yeah, I at minimum browse Derpy Burrow and find the closest looking thing I can find. And then after that, I almost always pay an artist and tell them what I want. And put it on there.
So I've put the cover art up on the screen there. So I'm curious to the audience themselves, does this cover art make you more interested in Cordero's story? So a curious question I have for Heather is, Heather, we've got a
awesome. Marketing.
Yeah, there's a link to Cordero's film fiction in the description under the credits. Check that out. Anyway, Heather, there's a book in the bedroom. It's on your nightstand. We've read a few chapters of it. It's about werewolves. What made
it's
you?
It's not primarily about that. I know what you're talking about. That's just a part of it, Brony.
Right. But what made you want to buy that book?
I didn't buy the book. It was a gift.
Okay. Then this sort of is mute. All right, so let me think for a second here.
It's a great cover.
I can't use your Halo books as an example because you bought them because they're Halo, which would play into marketing. So what's a book that you bought? Do you have any books that you bought that you did not buy solely for the cover art?
Geez, I'm trying to think now because it's been a while since I've been book shopping. Because visuals is a big part of it. I remember when I would used to go to the library, that is something I would look at. A nice cover and a title. Like, or it would go into, like, what's the cover look like? Does it look cool? What's the title? Let me read the back description and see if this is something I actually want to read, or if it's just a pretty looking book. So that's like the order of priorities right there. I'm trying to think of a time. I don't think I have. I don't think I've picked up a book and been like, if the cover is dumb, I don't want to read it, unless I had to. I think a book I might have enjoyed that I didn't like the looks of, but I read it anyway. It was probably for school. I think I picked up Pride and Prejudice, and I looked at the cover, and I was just like, this looks dumb. But I actually ended up enjoying that a lot. It's a lot of like personal growth as an individual, and a lot of that good shippy drama nonsense that you love to see. So it pandered to me a bit.
Alrighty.
Yeah, like it was a very flat, like the book I got it from the library. It was one of those books they were giving away for free because they were getting like new editions. So it was a beat up old looking book with the artwork on it looking very flat and very like, I don't know, you ever see those pieces of art that just like look like, what's the word for it? Like good ancient art that someone tried to fix.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Subreddit for that, but yeah, it looked horrible. But I read the book and I liked it.
All right. Does anybody want to add or take away from that? Does your so the ultimate question here is, does your what you're putting everything on hold up if the medium changes?
I think so. I think I've demonstrated that when it comes to books, shows, radio shows, podcasts, mangas, all that stuff, visuals are an important aspect, because if your book looks like a pile of crap, I probably won't want to read it.
Yes. Yeah, it changes the math and the emphasis and what you're doing. So like I was saying, book covers, everything's on the book cover. Like you have
I like the way you put that.
One shot.
I was gonna say shows because you have to look at it longer, but you make a good point with like a book cover only has one chance to make an impression with its visuals, and it's right there.
Yeah. Whereas a comic book, you get to keep going over and over again. They're looking at tons of pictures, so that's about the consistency of your visuals and how you're telling your story through the through the visual medium, versus one shot, hope you like it, and get involved in reading so that your imagination can do the visuals, versus animation, where again it's consistent visuals, but it's different than the comic books where your brain is filling in the gap between the panels as it's telling the story. You're getting everything is being done told for you, so it's all about the skill on how well you can make that motion and visuals connect with the reader. So it's always important. It's never not important. It just changes the math and changes the focus on in what way it's important.
Alrighty then. I would still say that no, it doesn't change that the story is still the most important, because something we haven't considered here yet tonight, guys, is the very title of the show. What is the most important aspect of a series? So if you're doing something that's only a one-off, and you're, like Heather said, it depends on your, if the success depends on your goal and all you care about is getting that one-off right out the gate, large profit, becoming super popular, and then your series is done, then how much of a series was it? Are we talking, are you a show that runs for one season, or do you only get one episode, or how many seasons do you want? And I think that within the very definition of a series, you've got something that's long and ongoing, and you might never intend to really end it. I think those things are implied by the definition of a series. So, and you simply, and I'm still going to say, you simply can't do that and hold that. All the marketing, the prettiest visuals in the world won't save you and your characters won't save you if there isn't a story.
Disagree.
I know.
I can still disagree against that as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the impasse there. So unless there's anything else that somebody would like to add on or say, I think we can move into audience participation.
Yeah, I'll just say to your last point, if your product is, quote, not good or lower quality, which again is a post-mortem, in my opinion, if it's like that, then you just have to convince the audience that there's something in there that they want and like. Be it a visual, be it a toy, be it something cool. Darth Vader is just cool. Boba Fett is cool. There's a guy who had no story, that had no reason to be that cool, but he just looked cool and people liked him, so Boba Fett became a huge thing for decades and multiple generations.
Which I have to watch.
So. Yeah, undeserved. Well, I'm not even before
you really
the show.
Don't have
before
to.
the Mandalorian. Yeah,
unless you want to watch
exactly.
Mandalorian season 3, that's the only reason you would have to watch it.
Oh hell yeah, I want to do that.
There you go. So yeah, so like if it's just not that good, or quote that good, you just have to convince people that there's something that they want in there, and then you can, because being quote good post facto is one method of making something that people will like and give you return on investment, but tricking people, for lack of a better word, into liking something is another way. Happens all the time.
You know, as much as I don't want to give you any points with the way you've been stonewalling me tonight, I have to I have to at least admit that what you just described is exactly what happened to me with Bleach. I watched Bleach for 367 episodes, waiting for it to get good because because the premise was extremely interesting and the visuals were extremely interesting, and I got played big time. God, turns out.
So does that mean you're not going to pick it up when it comes back?
Yes, it means I'm not going to pick it up when it comes back. I've learned my lesson, okay?
Heather, strap him down so we'll have to watch
just because I sat there with my hand on a hot stove. Just because I sat there with my hand on a hot stove for 6 years doesn't mean I'm going to put my hand back on the stove.
It's you.
I don't feel anything out of that hand anymore.
Might as well.
Oh, jeez.
Sunken cost not fallacy. Buy more. Yeah. Don't think about it, product. Just consume product and get excited for next product.
That's kind of how I live life now. I will say there's a list of priorities here we've conveyed. I will say, I'm sorry, Brony, at the bottom of the list is story, because I feel like it's not that story isn't important, just all these other things are more important. Because you can have the simplest story from point A to point B, we're gonna go save the princess from the dragon, which is the simplest story in the history of the universe, but that gave us the best movie, Shrek. And what else did Shrek have? It had great marketing, great visuals, and great character. No one gave a fuck about the story, Brony. I didn't mean to say fuck.
It doesn't.
The Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out in early 2020, right before the pandemic hit, that was the most basic paint by numbers cookie cutter story told, but Sonic was fun and the movie looked cool and I was smiling and enjoying it every minute. The movie was super successful, and the script is basically my first script. Followed these 10 steps to write a script, and it was perfect. It was beautiful.
Basic does not mean bad. If all these stories were bad,
we agree.
If all these stories,
I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying it's the least important.
Yeah.
Well, if it wasn't, it's the foundation, and you need your foundation to have anything else work. And if the story was bad, we would not have been saying that.
That is where I will counter you, Brony, is that it's not the most important because characters can make any story good.
All right, I cannot wrap my head around the concept of the basics and the foundation not being the most important thing. So we're
because I don't consider that story the foundation. The characters
if that movie had been like Fast Blue Rabbit fights evil Jim Carrey parody, the movie, I would not have enjoyed it nearly as much. It was because it was Sonic and Dr. Robotnik.
I think you can blame your nostalgia goggles for that, Cordero.
I'll put one in favor of DJ. I watched a series that had horrible visuals, stories with plot holes like literally everywhere, and the marketing was good. That's because I watched fucking Lego Ninjago. The TV series, particularly the one regarding like the freaking Serpentine. And let me tell you, the story was terrible. Like, it made no sense. There was a lot of plot holes. You know why I watched? Because the characters were good. Particularly the bad guy. Freaking, what the hell was his name? He was the really long-necked purple dude. He had the best voice acting. He was the only one that was well-designed, and he was great to watch. Pythor or something. He was great. They brought him back from the dead in that series because he was so good.
As much as I don't want to give points to anybody else anymore tonight, Max Steel, to back up what DJ was saying.
I've only seen the live action movie.
You poor soul.
It was actually not bad. I liked it.
I like the TV series.
I never saw the TV series.
The TV series for the first 2 seasons was good, but then they made it weird with like Max Steel became like a group thing. It was weird. I didn't like it. I didn't like it that much. But the first 2 seasons that you got on Netflix, they were pretty good. The story was kind of, but the characters were, the bad guys were good.
Who was your boy in that one? It was Vengon and Toxon.
I never forgot him. Toxon was awesome.
Yeah,
never forget those two.
Yeah, all right. So let's move on here. We got quite a bit of chat tonight, which was good. Thaddeus R says Dark Cover is here, so I'm assuming Thaddeus is Dark Cover. Characters can make up for a bad story. That's all he's saying. Let's see here. Cosmo Inspira says, I'm picky with art style, and for me, that can sell me on a show, but it also needs great writing for the marketing. So she's kind of middle-roading all of us in here.
To be fair, they do need a combination of all these things for things to be, really good. It's funny that we debate one over the other, but you need a combination of all these things for success.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Paladin Pony T says, do you think the heart of the author is important for a series to succeed? Such as Tolkien, no. George Lucas, Gene Roddenberry, Frank Herbert, Robert Jordan, for example.
What about them? What about
the heart? So how
death of the author kind of stuff.
How pure were the intent? Like, did Tolkien make Lord of the Rings to become rich, or did it just, or was he just like, no, I just want to tell this story and be creative?
It's kind of a trauma thing with him, wasn't it?
I don't know.
He wanted to write a story for his kids. It was The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a lot of it inspired by his experiences in, what was it, World War I?
World War I, yeah.
That's the that's what people say. I've seen some rumors that I haven't had a chance to confirm or deny through research yet, but I've seen rumors that he based it on like ancient history of actual like in the British Isles sort of area.
Yes, he meant for it to be like a mythology of the British Isles.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also based off of his experiences in World War One. That's all of that is correct.
Mm. Let's see. So
Still
does
have good success.
yeah? So does it
gonna
matter? Is
The heart
Yeah.
can be good heart can be profitable.
all
It
right?
doesn't. You don't need it though. Like, how many times have people just like put something out and it's soulless? They just don't care. Like, wasn't the guy who did Dragon Ball didn't want to do Dragon Ball Z? He didn't want to do any more of that shit. But
Toriyama,
like, he still
yeah,
got
that-
pushed out.
And
I hear conflicting tales about what Toriyama did and didn't
What
want to do,
With
and that's
it
from him
is-
himself. He changes his mind depending on what interview it is.
Yeah, the Toriyama writes by the seat of his pants. That's been known forever. He had strong editors all the way up through the Cell Saga. When we reached the Buu Saga, he was allowed to do whatever the heck he wanted. That's why it was so bloated. And the only reason he came back this past decade was because when Hollywood decided to make Dragon Ball Evolution, they completely kicked him out of the entire planning process, the entire writing process. And then the movie was absolutely horrible. And he's like, I'm going to make a Dragon Ball movie that completely destroys yours, Hollywood. I hate you. This is all about my rage.
Nice.
that's
I like
why
that.
it
Because
sucks
he is
so bad.
he is a very petty and vengeful guy.
The power of spite is more important than heart.
He just is
Power
Vegeta.
of spite is amazing.
Toriyama is Vegeta. It's a self-insert character.
Well, he better be.
and I think we can agree that like My Little Pony as a concept is just like 100% marketing.
yeah, that.
The 80s in a nutshell.
Yeah, so and the same thing with Transformers, and the same thing with G.I. Joe, and the same thing with Ninjago. Now the heart of the it works a little bit funny where they give these the corporations that make these products, like the My Little Pony product or the G.I. Joe product, and when they go to they commission these studios to make these shows, and then of course they can choose whether or not they want to put their full effort into making it good. But those are two different levels of artists' intentions there. So that's certainly
good marketers and producers hire passionate people. It's like, hey, we want to push this for toys and profit. Hey, you creative person with a proven track record, is this something you can get passionate about? Yes. Here's your contract. Now you figure out all the creative, passionate, artsy stuff and make me something I can sell a bajillion toys with. It's a
And
collaboration.
even then, that doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work. That's why
I mean, look at what happened with
it's a
Masters
skill.
of the Universe.
Everything is skill. Art is a skill, and marketing is a skill. And if you can find the right combo, boom, you get lightning in a bottle, kind of like MLP when Gen 4 when it came out. That was lightning in the bottle.
Masters of the Universe is a bad example because everybody who made Masters of the Universe had a contempt for the franchise. So
yeah, that was a problem.
Yeah, and it became blatantly obvious as we were going into it and as it finished up. But anyway, let's see here. Herman Silo says, by the way, character story writing are key to stories. Style can only go so far. How many people are still with Transformers fans versus the Michael Bay Transformers? So that he seems to be implying that there's two different fandoms there, and one of them is dead,
Sir.
dead or not really active, or like nobody is a fan of Transformers and is also a fan of Michael Bay's Transformers because the story didn't hold up and the characters didn't hold up.
That's because nobody is a fan of Michael Bay Transformers. Period.
Well, here's where I'm a contrarian because I like those movies.
It was like the Transformers series was like 1.7 good movies. It was like one good movie, and then it was half of a good movie, and then it was a quarter of a good movie, and then that end of list.
Mm-hmm.
The only one I didn't like was
It
5. 1 through 4 I enjoyed.
worse. They kept getting worse. But like, yeah, because people who are actual fans of Transformers, Like people who watched the movies were like, "Oh, this is interesting," and then they're like, "Okay, well that's it, I'm out." And they basically made their buck and got out. So Michael Bay Transformers was successful. You don't make 5 movies without being successful. Actually, I take that back, Star Trek, but that's another story.
Michael Bay
but,
was
like,
not
people
successful
who are-
because he didn't finish his story. He left the last movie off on a cliffhanger and then canceled
He
it.
made $1 trillion kajillion. What do you mean he's not successful? He made $1 billion.
He didn't
gajillion
finish
dollars.
his story. He's not successful. I am not
Do you
backing
do you
down on
think-
that.
I kind of
Do
lean
you
on
think
that
he's
too.
losing
If the story gets canceled, it doesn't count as a success anymore.
Do you think that Michael Bay loses sleep on his
cares?
pillow?
No,
on his bed
because
of
he's a
money
soulless-
That he didn't finish his story.
No, because he's a soulless douchebag, but that doesn't mean he succeeded in telling his story.
All right.
I mean,
I'll-
we did just
I'll
agree
tell
the
his
heart of the
garage-
author means very little.
It's a bad series. He didn't finish his story. I would have at least given him props if he finished it. He was almost getting interesting too by
tell
calling
his Hollywood. Oh my God! Go tell his Hollywood Hill mansion with a garage full of nice cars that it wasn't successful.
I'll tell
Go
him
to his face and explain to him that his passion project wasn't finished and he should feel like a failure.
I don't
Go
want to get
explain
that
to
close.
him.
He's going to suck out my soul through his mouth.
Probably.
I mean,
He'll probably
I
just laugh at you.
Tell that to his face.
Yeah, tell him to his face how unsuccessful Transformers was.
It doesn't
His
matter
house built.
if he cares or not. It still doesn't, like, his feelings of his own franchise do not change any objective aspect about it.
You're right. It doesn't. I'm saying the money does. Like the guy has like houses built on Transformers money.
Who cares?
I would if I were him. I'd be like,
Yes,
like,
but as this is established, you are a very selfish person.
yeah. And so are you noticing a trend with successful content creators? Michelangelo wanted money. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel for money. He didn't want the gig. He was a sculptor. And they said, we want you, and we're going to pay you a ton of money to do it. And he took the fucking money and painted the
He
Sistine
at least made
Chapel.
something good and finished it.
Yeah, because he was talented. Because the Medici family and these Italian families in the church that won all these things recognized good talent and paid through the nose for this stuff.
Yes, but it was still finished.
Yeah, Sistine Chapel was finished. Unfinished stuff is great. Mozart's Requiem is unsuccessful because he died before it was finished. It's the most famous Requiem. The most famous Requiem on Earth is the
Never
unfinished
heard of it.
one. Mozart,
Never
well,
heard
you
of
probably never heard of a single Requiem then. But like the most
Nope.
famous Requiem that was ever composed is the one that Mozart didn't finish.
All right. Let's see here. Cosma and Spira says, what does everyone consider to be the best premiere episode of a favorite series? I don't think I have one off the top of my head that I could list, so I'll just give it to everybody else. DJ, do you have one?
What is a good one that really sets the tone? I'm kind of leaning on the first episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That gave us a lot, especially after what happened with the 2003 series. They gave us a lot in one episode, and it really set the tone. I think I have to lean on that.
All right. Heather, do you have one?
I think the most memorable season opener I could think of, it's for an anime or in High School Host Club, because I just remember that opening very well. It established all the characters very well, and it was a lot of fun to watch. It had to do quite a bit of work, expositioning, but even the exposition was fun and narrated very, it was the English dub I watched it. It was even narrated very well. I liked it.
All right. And Cordero, do you have one?
One example of what now?
What show had the best series premiere?
Ooh, I'll have to think about that. Season premieres are hard.
Quiet Storm is saying Trigun. Paladin Pony T is saying One Piece. Both of those people. Well, Trigun was good, but One Piece is certainly not good.
One Piece is great.
One Piece is amazing. One Piece is some of the best storytelling.
I gotta get
With
new.
amazing characters.
I gotta get new co-hosts. I'm sick and tired of you guys coming on my show and just being wrong all the time.
It's not my fault. You don't know how to understand good storytelling, Brony.
I know, right? Clearly. You either love Usopp because he's the heart of the show, or you're just wrong and not a real One Piece fan.
I mean, I like Usopp, but everyone knows Brook is best character.
Mm-hmm.
Once you reach 1,000 episodes, you failed at your storytelling. You should have been able to wrap it up by then.
That's not the point of the story, Brony.
Tell Tolkien that. I guess we'll go tear up the Silmarillion.
Tolkien didn't have 1,000 episodes of an anime.
You add all of his books together. Yes, he fucking did. The Silmarillion is huge. We'll just tear it up. It's too no. Brony says it's too long. You can't go with.
You know what? Let's word for word adapt. We will word for word adapt the Silmarillion into a show, completely 1-to-1. We will spend every waking second just getting the cellular level of the tree branches.
At it.
Right, we will do that, and we'll see how many episodes it produces. We have infinite money. We can do it as we have infinite money. We do not have to worry about ratings. We do not have to worry about funding. We're just gonna do it, and we'll see how many episodes it produces. Okay, I would love to run this experiment.
As long as we don't put Galadriel in armor with a sword.
I get to play Legolas. I want to play Legolas. I think I look the part.
It's before his time.
Is he in that one? I haven't seen him advertised.
It's a prequel. It's before his time.
All right. Well,
Galadriel is young, and she's like an ancient, infinite elf, and this is like her young years.
Okay. Will Eisen says, I'd argue that radio does have visuals, audio visuals, technically. Every sound effect, every ambience, every noise is used to give a radio play more immersion. That is the radio visuals. So what do you think about that, Heather?
Yeah, the visuals are in your mind. Sorry, and then I answer. It's the same with the book. Like the visuals are your imagination, and the sound effects and the audio effects are tools to engage your imagination.
That was a part we should have argued. Audio.
Right.
I mean, is it not the same if you don't have the guy in the studio firing the gun?
Exactly. Sorry, what exactly was the question again?
No, he's just saying
audio is visual was basically what he's getting at.
It's interlinked. It's interlinked.
It's visuals in your brain. It triggers your brain images.
Imagination.
Yeah.
Christopher Jones, back when I was accusing Cordero of stonewalling me, says, Cordero, just admit you lost.
No.
Ooh. So far,
winning.
Ronnie's the only one that's lost. We've kind of beat him down.
Everything else is more important.
You guys have been browbeating me. That's for certain. Because I keep giving all these examples of like, but if you change this, things change, and it's still me. And then and I keep coming up with more examples of how you're wrong, and you just keep saying the same exact thing. You just keep saying the same exact thing over and over again. That's not knocking them down.
No, Brony, that is because it's true every single time. You're like, well, if the story isn't good, then this is working. No, if the characters are strong enough, it's still this. It's because it's the same thing is right every single time. You just don't want to admit you're wrong.
You are gaslighting us right now, Brony.
You keep trying to reword the questions when we just keep giving the same answer.
Because it's the same answer. You don't realize that every time you reword the question, you're running into the same wall that's still correct. That's why it feels like you're getting stonewall. It's because you are. It's because you're slamming your face into the same brick wall over and over again and saying, "Why is it different?"
Well, to be fair, he's usually used to beating down those walls like that.
I keep telling him to stop that.
He's used to people capitulating if they get told no enough times. You know, the Hitler tactics, very effective.
Ooh, that's me.
We were roasting him before, and now you just set him on fire.
He's a monster.
Hashtag Brony's a Nazi. Trend it.
Yep.
We already had that. Let's not.
Oh, hell no. Halo 3 is trending right now. Don't you interrupt.
Why is Halo 3 trending?
I don't know. I'm about to find out.
Well, because they're coming out with a new Halo show, and apparently it's also going to suck in terms of the story. Paladin Ponies, he says, Brony, what do you want to get out of your series? Like Brony Debates or a buck to the face? Well, with Brony Debates, I just like having good conversations. And if I can teach someone in anything that's cool, that's what I've been put on this planet to do. And if I can learn, I love learning as well. So yeah, I like good intellectually stimulating conversations. I do that through Brony Debates, and I do that through Moral of the Story. And with a buck to the face, it's sort of just reactions, but there is a story that I'm trying to tell, and I do want to finish that story. And it's really just for the purpose of self expression. Like, it's just my artistic expression through A Buck to the Face and telling that story. And
How many episodes are you up to?
I don't know. Let me see.
Don't pass 1,000.
Yeah, I won't pass
Listen
1,000
to him,
because
Chad,
I'm a
he's
good
telling
student.
lies. Up to the Face is about slapstick.
Yep. Let's see here. Anyway, Commodore Steel says, "Bring it, Buck Wild," and I have no idea what he means by that. Buck Wild is not in the show at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, that's the answer to that question, Paladin. And the last one is Ashton Blackheart says, "Brony, I got a new drawing tablet, and I'll send you some art of the speed paint with our OCs." Oh, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Okay, is there anything else that something that anybody would like to say before we wrap up the show tonight?
I'm good.
Okay, so Heather, real quick, one thing you learned.
That it takes all these qualities in tandem to really make a great piece of work. But above all else, story is the least important.
Alrighty then. Cordero, one thing you learned.
I learned that if you just keep making the same argument over and over again, you can convince 3 people in chat that you're correct.
Okay, I'm surprised you didn't know that one already. DJ, one thing you learned.
That apparently marketing has a broader definition than I was aware of, and it's a definition I definitely do not agree with.
Alrighty then. Well, you know something, I've got family that could answer that question for me, and I'm gonna get that answer off stream. And if I turn out to be right, I'm gonna beat Cordero over the head with it. So okay. I learned that one of us is gaslighting the other, and I don't know who, which is to me a sign that I'm the one being gaslit. And so that is what I learned here tonight.
Reverse gaslighting.
Yep, but I've had fun.
This episode.
Yeah, well that's good. We had a good conversation, but I'm ready to get going here. So I hope you all had fun tonight. Did everybody have fun tonight?
Yes.
Good.
This was good.
Yep, and I hope you all enjoyed it out there in the chat. Hopefully we'll see you again on the next one. If you want to hang out with us some more, tomorrow night I'll be hanging out with Heather on her channel at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours. She's going to be doing some crocheting, so go subscribe to her if you're not already. And we'll see you there. And then next week at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be playing some Friday night fights, and I don't know what game I'm playing yet, but it's usually pretty fun to watch me just be really bad at video games, so I highly recommend that as well. If you would like to get on the show, I'd love to have you. Let's just get you on the Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and in the higher tiers, there's more perks. Check those out, see if there's anything there you're interested in. But you get to be in the Discord server. You can come on the show if there's a topic you're interested in. You can pick the games for Friday Night Fights and just hang out with me and all these other folks here and do anything you want to do, really. But yeah, I'm very grateful to all of my generous supporters on Patreon. And despite the hard time they give me tonight, that includes these 3 on the $10 and up tier, DJ Cordero and Princess Heather Blossom. There's also Shady Oak Ministries, Sid McConroy, Autoknight, Emerald Spencer, Sodden, Girder, Senko, Kyle Christensen, Rein-Kun, Morningstar, QFlash, Billy Henline, Alden, MacManx, EasyModeGamer, Sophia, and Dark Malcontent, author of the Metaverse series. Please check out all their links in the description. They make some good stuff, and we will see you on the next stream. Say goodnight, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.